Hey guys, I'm back to do another installment of my Neil Young collection. Um, we left off with Neil Young and the Blue Notes, This Note's for You. After that, for some reason, Neil decided to get back together with Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I know I said I'd leave my Crosby, Stills, and Nash collection for afterwards, but I think this should be mentioned. Um, this is American Dream, and it's probably one of the worst albums that Neil Young has ever put his name on. Really, it's just awful. And I guess American Dream is okay, and I think there was maybe one other one by Neil that's all right, but really, this album's just garbage. And I guess the whole experience for Neil was just really bad. Stephen Stills at the time was a mess on cocaine, and David Crosby was just really out of shape, and the whole thing left a bad taste in Neil's mouth, and the album shows. It's terrible. So I guess he was so unhappy with all of this that he takes a couple members of the Blue Notes and they go to New York to the Hit Factory and record some of his most angriest music of his career. And he puts together an album, I think it's called Times Square, and he handed it into Reprise and they were not happy with it. So Neil took songs from the sessions and he put it out on an EP called El Dorado. And the thing about this is he only put it out in Australia and Japan. Now, I'd read different things about this, that the vinyl was only released in Australia and the CD in Japan. And I've heard that he's only put out 5,000 copies of this. So 5,000 copies in 1989. So this is pretty rare. This is actually the only copy that I've ever seen. I paid about $150 for this. But for me, it was just a must-have. And it's just, the guitar work on this is just maddening. It's really heavy, and it's just fantastic. Some of these songs on here were later put on his next album, Freedom, but some of them are different versions on here. Plus, there's songs on here that aren't on Freedom and only on this. And this is actually a really beautiful copy. I won't take it out or anything, but it's really, really well. I guess I'll take it out a little bit. But it's a really nice copy. But yeah, this is definitely very rare. Probably the rarest Neil Young record I have. Perhaps the rarest of my collection too. I'm not sure. But so there you go. And this is Neil coming back from his genre jumping, his all these different personas he's taken on in the 80s. So this is his return to form. And then after El Dorado, he puts out Freedom. And this has Rockin' in the Free World, Crime in the City, one of my favorite Neil Young songs. Don't Cry, which is also an El Dorado. El Dorado, Too Far Gone, On Broadway, Wrecking Ball, Someday. Again, 1989. Just a great return to form for Neil. Freedom, check this out. Still has a bit of that 80s sound to it, but fantastic album, especially when you look at what came before it. So, good stuff. So then Neil gets back together with Crazy Horse and records one of the best albums of his career, Ragged Glory. One of my favorites. You have Mansion on the Hill, Love It Only Love, Country Home, White Line, Fucking Up, Love to Burn. Just a great heavy feedback driven album. Play this one loud. It's just fantastic. And probably this and Freedom, El Dorado, were what really contributed to him being called the Godfather of grunge and all that. But yeah, Rag to Glory, great album. And from the Ragged Glory tour, he put out a live album, Weld. It's a double live album. Probably my favorite live album by him. I like this better than Live Rust. Maybe it's just the sound and everything. But yeah, it's just a great live album, Crazy Horse. 2 LP set. This too was kind of hard to find, but I mean, if you look hard enough, you could get your hands on a copy. Very political tour. The Gulf War was happening, and he he toured. I think bands. I think Sonic Youth had opened up on parts of this tour, and I want to say the Smashing Pumpkins. I'm not sure. I could be wrong about that. So, he definitely got his link to the whole '90s grunge scene and underground scene by bands opening up for him. He also put out a companion piece to this. And let me see if I can pull this out easily. I don't think it was ever put out on vinyl. It's called Arc. And it's basically a disc of stuff taken from these shows. It's all feedback, all put together in, one just collage of feedback, and a little bit of, like a Hurricane's lyrics, and I think maybe Cortez the Killer's lyrics. But that's the companion piece to Weld Arc. And I'm pretty sure it's never released on vinyl. But I'm sure only hardcore Neil Young fans would have this. So Neil basically ruined his ears on that tour because it was so loud that he went back and got mellow and acoustic again and put out Harvest Moon. Big hit of the 90s. People thought it was a sequel to Harvest, his only #1 hit. This album, to me, it's got good songs on it, but I think just the production and the sound on it, I'm not too crazy about. I don't hate it. I think it's, compared to some of the stuff he's put out, it's a really good album, but it's basically a lot to do with aging, old romance. There's songs about the environment. I mean, Natural Beauty, that's an awesome song. He also put out Dreamin' Man more recently, one of his last releases, and it's this album, all live, solo, acoustic, and it's just, I like it better than this, but it's another hard to find, only released in Europe on vinyl, I think. This is actually a Croatian copy, but yeah, Harvest Moon. And I think to make things a little bit better with Geffen, or maybe part of his whole contract with Geffen, he had to put out a compilation of his 80s work. I wish I had time to get more deep into this, but on the sleeves of this record, it's a 2-record set. He's got a list of all the songs that he's written in the 80s, and that aren't on here or aren't on other albums. A lot of them ended up being released in the 90s. And it's funny, people think of the 80s as a bad time for Neil Young, but when you look at the list of these songs, he wrote a ton of great songs. I mean, The Hitchhiker's listed on there, Silver and Gold, all that stuff. So yeah, this is his 80s compilation. Lucky 13 Excursions into Alien Territory, if I didn't mention that. Another one very hard to come by. This is a Greek copy. I got this one more recently, as I mentioned in another video. But yeah. Neil also put out, he did an Unplugged show for MTV, and this is Neil Young Unplugged. It's a great acoustic set, I think. I mean, he does The Old Laughing Lady, Mr. Soul, World on a String, Pocahontas, String Man, which is an older song that's only really available on this album. He does Like a Hurricane on Pump Organ. He does Transformer Man, which is on trans, but without the vocoder. So another hard to find Neil Young album, Unplugged. And then he put out, with Crazy Horse, Sleeps with Angels. This is kind of, they say a lot of these songs are because of Kurt Cobain's use of the lyrics "Hey Hey My" in his suicide note. Very experimental, especially for Crazy Horse, but all in all, a great album. Very dark, very just moody kind of album. You just have to hear it to believe it. I mean, there's a lot of experimentation. Primal Life, great song. My Heart, Drive By, Sleeps with Angels, Western Hero, Change Your Mind, which is like a 15-minute song. But check this out. Good Neil Young 90s album. Then he was inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he ditched Crazy Horse and hooked up with Pearl Jam and put out Mirror Ball, which I like a lot. I think it's a great album with Pearl Jam backing them, and he put out a video and a single, Downtown, from this. Also Peace and Love, On the Oceans, Scenery. Just a very strong album. A lot of people dismissed it when it came out, but I think it's a fantastic hard rock and Neil album, so check it out. Mirror Ball. And a month after recording Mirror Ball, Pearl Jam, he went in the studio and recorded the soundtrack for Dead Man, the Jim Jarmusch film, which is, I like the film a lot. It's definitely very different, but very good, with Johnny Depp. And it's basically Neil's solo electric, just playing as you watch the movie. And it's very different. There's also spoken word stuff by Johnny Depp, and just some dialogue from the film in here as well. Another very hard to find Neil album, but definitely worth it. So, and then he gets back together with Crazy Horse after his longtime producer David Briggs passed away, and this album is, I think of it as kind of a tribute to Briggs. Neil Young, Broken Arrow. And as I mentioned, this is an album that came out, probably the first album that came out when I was really getting into Neil, and I saw him on this tour twice, and this tour was just awesome. I mean, I saw him one time especially close up, and it was like I walked out of there convinced I'd just seen a lunatic play. I mean, it was just so loud, all the feedback, and it was just a fantastic show. But so this album will be kind of near and dear to me for that reason. But you got Big Time, Loose Change, Slip Away, Scattered, Music Arcade, and on the vinyl version only, there's a song, Interstate, which they list here. It's only on the vinyl, and it's a fantastic song. Really, it's like acoustic, and it's just really a brooding masterpiece. I mean, one of my, I don't know, favorite song, but it's just a fantastic Neil song, Interstate. So check that out if you can. Check the time here. And on that tour I was just talking about, he put together a live album, which is also a soundtrack to the Jim Jarmusch film he did on Neil Young and Crazy Horse, called Year of the Horse. Now, that show I was just talking about that I said was just fantastic, two of the songs on this album were from that performance. So again, another album that's really near and dear to me, that I got to see it. When You Dance, and I think it is Scattered, from a performance that I actually saw. So yeah, good live album. And then at the end of the 90s, he put out Silver and Gold. I think this is a good album. It's acoustic Neil. One of the songs on here was actually we used in my wedding song. But alright, I'm gonna have to run, but I'll take over again in the 2000s.